I ducked underneath one of the big pieces of concrete that had fallen down, a large part of a wall that had been broken up, and slipped underneath into the darkness where they wouldn't.
Took you long enough.
Yeah, good thing you chose an easy spot.
Chapter 4. I faced my 3 opponents, staff in hand. I waited for one of them to attack, and the one to finally do it was a youth with blue mottled skin. He ran towards me, staff in hand, swinging it like a club, and the other 2 ran in to help their comrade. I ducked between their blows, knocking them out of the way and dodging others as they came around to try to surround me. Sighing, I closed my eyes and let destiny guide my way as I fought them perfectly on every side. Bursting through the circle, I knocked over the shortest man and sent him to the ground as I sprinted off away from the group and through the rubble. They chased after me as I raced toward a massive slab of concrete, part of a building that had fallen and now had a cavity underneath. I ducked into a small opening into the cavity, which was pitch black, and except for a few shafts of light that came through. There weren't many openings here, and I could feel that the 3 hesitated, didn't want to attack a sire, who had just ducked under a dark space. The shorter man from before waited outside the entrance, though a few feet back, while the young man ran around to the far side to try to intercept me before I got through the far end. The other man raced on top to scout out the exits and shout to the others. As the youth ran past another small hole that he hadn't noticed, I threw my staff through, guided by destiny. As the staff came through, it lodged in rocks and went in between his legs so that he tripped and fell to the ground. As he cried out, the other 2 turned to him, thinking that I would attack from that entrance. As I threw myself into the air, grabbed atop a large wire, I guess, like almost a beam of metal, and that was sticking out of the bottom of this thing, and threw myself up the top, out a grate that I punched open, and took a stance right in front of the man on top of the structure. He threw his hands in the air, dropping his staff, and said, "I give up." I said, "Diamane, you can't just give up when you're fighting somebody. Is that what you did during the revolution?" And he said, "I wasn't fighting a seer then." I said, "All right, fine, let's head back." And pat him on the back as he picked up his staff, and I motioned for everyone to reconvene. The 3 I'd been fighting, as well as the others who'd been observing, came together, and I said, "All right, what did you see about that fight?" One woman spoke up and said, "You absolutely destroyed them." I said, "Okay. Other thoughts? You 3 can speak up as well." It was quiet for a minute as everybody thought, nobody wanting to share, until Ferrendo, the blue-skinned youth stepped forward and said, personally, I had no idea where you were or what you were thinking, and that was terrifying. I felt absolutely blind. And I said, okay, that's something that you feel when you're facing a seer, right? And we continued to talk about that. As I asked, all right, what could they have done better? What could they possibly have done in fighting me? And a few shared thoughts. One said, if they had teamed up better and acted more cohesively, they might have ganged up on you. And we continued to talk. And I said, all right, I like your comments. However, things are different starting today. Being cohesive is a great tactic. However, as seers, you cannot work together. Being in proximity with any other seer will lessen the power that you have to access destiny. And so you're going to need to learn to fight on your own, which is counterintuitive, I know, but it's an important thing to learn. And they had questions about that and said, well, if we're all working for destiny, shouldn't he be helping us all the same? And I hated when they talked about destiny like that, as if you were some god. He was a force. He didn't decide these things. At least I didn't think he was a god. I'd have to ask him one of these days. And I said, no, anytime you're in proximity to a seer, you will have lesser abilities. And that's just how it works. And we're going to have to get to know that. We're going to do lots of training. Good, Diamane said. Said, I don't want to have to go through that until we've practiced. And I said, however, our training is only with how to access destiny. As far as fighting itself, you're going to get that from Destiny himself. And then they were less happy about that. But I said, don't worry. We'll go through this. You've got time. But we need you. As seers, you will be Serremea's eyes. And as sires, you will be its hands. We need you. There are still a lot of cities that are in darkness. And they need to be freed. So, you're going to be the ones to do it. Let's get training. So today we're going to work on your ability to hone in on destiny and connect with him. So we said, all right, take a spot somewhere around here. Be a good distance away from everyone else. And just start thinking and feeling. Experience what's around you. I said, I'll come around and give you tips, postures, and all of those things. And they spread out across the riverbed to meditate. And for the next few hours, I went around amidst all of them, going around and giving them tips, talking about what they were feeling, how to get better with that, and all of those different things. Walking up and down the riverbed. And it was an interesting place to practice. Not the easiest place. There wasn't a lot of sure footing, but where was there? This place was better than most because it had been where the river was, and so some smaller things had been taken downstream. However, the river itself was a lot smaller. My civil advisors suspected that with the chasms that had been opened up as Demise Cry had fallen, water was diverted into those, and there might come problems with that. But for now, it left a nice open space for us to practice. As I trained the Seerguard to be able to sire. As I went along between the sires, I heard a voice say, gee, you're doing well with them. And I turned, I knew that voice. I couldn't see Destiny. At least I didn't think I could make him out. I don't know if it just wasn't dark enough or I don't know. But he said, you're doing a good job with him. I said, well, thank you, Destiny. It's all because of your help and what you've taught me. Question for you. Are you a god? And he chuckled at that. He said, no, though I'm guided by one. But I'm just a force of nature. I thought, interesting. And I said, and why are you a boy? And he said, you've been talking with Scar again, haven't you? You've got all kinds of weird questions. I said, I'm sorry, but I wonder about these things. You know me, I'm curious. He said, I know. He said, anything that I have, human-wise, is because of you. I have never had to completely take over a sire the way I took over you. Because nothing happened like what the Prophithians had done until they'd done it and you were the first one to come around. He said, so you've influenced me in the similar ways as how I've influenced you. I have had to bond to certain emotions and ways of thinking, and anything I have is yours. I thought, interesting. I'll have to think more about this. But I didn't want to be like talking with him around other people. That was a little weird. Plus, his voice was getting a little bit more distant as I approached another of the seers. So I said, I'll talk with you later about this. And I felt his agreeance as I stepped up to Panere, one of the other seers, and gave him some pointers about how to improve. And then I said, could you help me gather the rest of the Seerguard? We've been practicing for long enough, and we've got another activity to do. He said, all right. And we gathered everybody up. It had been a few hours, and they were starting to get tired. I didn't want to work them too hard on their first meditation thing. I'd gotten a lot better about it. A lot better at meditation over the summer, but I recognized they had a hard time, especially some of the impatient ones. They were getting further from the goal the longer we went. I gathered them together and said, well, great. We've practiced feeling out for destiny. It's also important to practice what to do with destiny. And I explained that as seers, our power is connected to our creativity. And so the more creative you are and the better a thinker you are, the better you can access destiny. So I split them into 3 groups and said, your task, build as high as you can. Build wherever you want with whatever you've got. You have an hour. And I watched the teams get to work as they started racing around for lighter materials and started piling things together and working together, taking note as I watched. I took note of, who was giving ideas, who was leading everything that was going on. Though that didn't last for too long, as I got a call, and it was Andrew, my friend. I picked it up, and he said, Reggie, I know where you and Scar are, and if you don't take me, I'm going to find my way there myself. And that took me off guard at first. I wouldn't have given that second thought to most other people, but with Andrew and his connection to different worlds, I was afraid he might be able to do it. End of chapter 4.